Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Isis, Imitation of Life. The Goddess Next Door helps a young black girl overcome racism during the era of Jim Crow in this Golden Age Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Imitation of Life in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Last week, I was reading an article on Bounding into Comics that stated that Marvel Comics was getting ready to retcon the origin of the Fantastic Four. And instead of the iconic origin where Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben got into a spaceship that was bombarded by cosmic rays that gave them their powers being their origin, we were going to get a cosmic being being the one who was the result of them getting their powers. And as I read this article regarding the retcon of the Fantastic Four's origin, I shook my head. Stan Lee hasn't been dead 2 weeks, and here we have Marvel making plans in March to destroy his legacy in the pages of Marvel Comics. Because I recently read articles that stated that this plan is not only to retcon the origin of the Fantastic Four, it is to destroy the entire history of the Marvel Universe. And you would think that in these days where Marvel Comics are at their all-time low, that they would not be pulling a gimmick like this to further alienate fans. But in the eyes of some of these comic editors, they believe an angry fan is an engaged reader. Unfortunately, when we look at the sales, yes, there are lots of angry fans, but they're not buying Marvel Comics. And why would you want to buy a Marvel comic when the universe that you knew and the history that you knew is winding up getting rewritten and revised based on the whims of editorial at every moment? Because I look at this recent plan to so-called destroy the history of the Marvel Universe, and it's a plan that is destined to fail. Because I can remember back in 1995 when Marvel first tried to pull this retcon gaslighting by saying that Tony Stark was a pawn of Kang and that he was a villain all along. And as a longtime Iron Man fan, I was deeply disgusted by that revelation from issues 318 on, and I never looked at the Iron Man character the exact same way. And many Spider-Man fans, they were not happy with the retcon that stated that Spider-Man died during the original Clone Saga and that the clone lived on, and that completely derailed the Spider-Man character for most of the 90s and the early 2000s, and the Spider-Man character was further derailed by the retcon that stated one more day where Spider-Man's marriage to Mary Jane was completely dissolved. And recently we have Captain America winding up being damaged and his canon being completely damaged by the statement that Captain America was an agent of Hydra, and most people no longer look at the Captain America character the exact same way after that revelation. And you would think that after these numerous revelations from 1995 on that have proven to fail at every turn, that Marvel would not go out here and pull this type of marketing stunt. Unfortunately, we still have people in editorial who believe that angry fans are engaged fans, but when I look at the sales numbers, it's showing me that most fans just aren't engaged in this type of dysfunctional storytelling, nor are they engaged by this shock marketing. And this shock marketing is all part of a larger plan as related to social engineering. Because what these people at Marvel want to do by destroying the history of these characters and retconning these characters is to see if they can get away with socially engineering the revising history in the eyes of most people. Because if they can get people to jump aboard the bandwagon as related to their retcon stories and their revised history. That allows their parent company, Disney, to go out of their way to go and find other ways to gaslight people. And this gaslighting is a way of them trying to tell us something that isn't true is true, even if we have the facts in front of us. And that's really what this whole plan, as related to this destroying the Marvel Universe, is about. Is about the Disney Corporation trying to socially engineer ideas in people's minds. And it's similar, very similar to what they were trying to do with that Last Jedi movie, where you had Rian Johnson trying to retcon all of Star Wars history and then just write his own story. And that's what these people at Marvel want to do. They want to be able to erase the legacies of these characters, erase the history of these characters, and then replace it with their own narrative. And the only way they can get away with that is if many comic fans go out here and blindly support these books and not send a message to these comic publishers by saying that you are not going to destroy this history because we are just not going to support the product. Because I look at this marketing stunt, and it's not something any smart business person would go out of their way to do. The last thing you want to do is alienate your customers by giving them a product that does not meet their standard. But in the comic book industry, this is business as usual. And it just shows me how completely insane people in the comic book industry are, that people go out of their way to find ways to alienate the customer in the hopes of engaging them, because they believe that bad publicity is good publicity, and they believe any attention is good attention. They don't want to go out here and put in the work of writing good stories. No, they would rather try to push some marketing stunt in the hopes of getting people's attention, and not knowing that all you're doing is alienating people further from comics. I mean, the Fantastic Four have been gone since 2015, and you would think in 2018, with them finally coming back, instead of you trying to retcon their origin, you think you would try to find a way to craft great stories to show readers why they need to read the Fantastic Four, why they need to read Spider-Man, why they need to read Captain America, why they need to read Iron Man. You think you would want to make stories that make these characters appear positive to the readers, but your people who are running Marvel Comics right now, they have no vision, they have no direction, they have no plan, and because they have no plan, they think they can get away with running these gimmicks and pulling these stunts, and they think that these gimmicks and stunts are the best way for them to get attention for their products, when products most people just aren't buying right now. And the reason why they're not buying them right now is because they produce products that just don't appeal to the everyday reader. The everyday reader, they want fun, fantastic adventures that exist in a shared universe, and they want a history that's easy to follow. And it's hard to follow a universe that constantly gets rebooted and retconned every 8 seconds because the people who are hired to write it have no understanding of how a story model works, even for a basic story. Because when I look at this whole event, it's just another marketing stunt and another gimmick. And at this point, comic book industry, with it being in dire straits, doesn't need any more gimmicks, especially the kind that wind up alienating people. What the comic book industry needs right now, especially at companies like Marvel and DC, is an editor-in-chief who will focus primarily on developing characters, developing stories, and someone who isn't focused on events, and someone focused on giving people the best quality stories possible. Because that's what I do with the SJS Direct imprint. I'm not really focused on events. I just want to give people great quality stories. And it's sad that a small independent publisher out of a bedroom is more concerned about telling stories than the people at Marvel Comics, who would rather keep trying to play with history, trying to revise history, instead of trying to add to the legacies of these great characters. And that's what's really sad about this attempt, is in their attempt to try to destroy history, they're just going to wind up destroying Marvel Comics, because with the Marvel brand at an all-time low, all this event is going to do is wind up turning more readers away from Marvel Comics and have them saying, make something else, because Marvel just isn't great. If you'd like to try some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the Spinsterella trilogy, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com in the description box. And if you want to help me make more videos like this and pay for more book covers, you may do so by clicking the link to my Patreon. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.